Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May 20th, 2021 Curriculum Committee meeting. I would like to call this meeting to order, and we're going to start with approval of the agenda. And I do have one item that I would like to add to the agenda for action, an update on our virtual academy for the 2021 22 school year, and I'm going to ask Dr. Breedlove to give us an update, and then we will take action or recommendation to the full board. I suggest that we put that number 3 under C, items for discussion action. We'll just make that number 3. Are there any other comments? Or okay, then I will accept a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I would also like to say that Mr. Sides is unable to join us today. Okay, so if everyone's had a chance to look over the minutes from the April 22nd meeting. Okay, good. I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And that brings us to a discussion and information only. We'll start with the summer learning camp update. Dr. Breedlove.
Thank you, Ms. Merrill and board. Thank you for your time this morning. First thing we have is the summer learning camp update in your packets and on board docs. You will see that it's a very similar presentation to what I gave last time, but what we've been doing is updating these presentations as we update summer learning camp. And so you can see that the general overview is the same. House Bill 82, those slides are all the same. I do want to draw your attention to this particular slide. I think it's 7 in your packet, and this is the summer learning camp sites and site administration. And what we have here is not only have we identified, obviously, all of the sites, and the host sites are in yellow, all right, are highlighted in yellow. And you can see there that there are pairings of schools, but the host site will take on the students from the other schools as well in that particular cluster. And what you also see here is we have identified site administrators to every site. And so these will be the points of contact moving forward with questions or concerns that families may have or anything like that, like normal a principal would be at all of our schools. Well, our site administrators are really the acting principals for this for that site. And so I'm really excited about these up and coming future principals is really the way to look at them. And this is a great opportunity for them. So we have identified them. They have begun their work in which if you go 2 more slides, you can see a new slide here on the UCPS Summer Learning Camp and the staffing models that we have put in play. These are baseline staffing models at each one of our levels. And you can see there, for example, at elementary, the site administrator, 1 per site, a Read to Achieve coordinator. Remember, Read to Achieve is something we do every summer, and it's added into summer learning camp. And so these are the students that have not shown proficiency, and we work through the summer to try and get them to a proficient status. And so we do have a Read to Achieve coordinator. We have core teachers. Right now, we have freed up them to go ahead and hire one teacher per grade level, all right, in K through 5, and then of course 6 through 8. If you look over on the middle school, you will see that it's 1 core per grade level. So English, math, science there. But back to the elementary, EC staff, a counselor. EC staff is going to be based on the need. We are currently, once again, identifying students putting those students into Power School. Our EC department has access to those students to understand their identification, their accommodations, and be able to then place our EC staff accordingly out into our sites to assist those students. A counselor at every site, teacher assistants, and slash tutors. We've built that in because that carries across all levels, because some schools at the middle school or high school will hire tutors, but it's in essence the same as a teacher assistant that an elementary might utilize. EL support, clerical, nursing, and SRO. What the site administrators are responsible for are those core teachers, the enrichment teachers, as far as hiring right now, teacher assistants, and then the clerical. The district office will be responsible for all the other and placement of, for example, the counselors, the nurses, the SROs are groups that we would be responsible for in assisting those site administrators and making sure that they have those assistants as needed. As far as, of course, across the board, you can see similar setup there. Does anyone have any questions at this time based on the updates to the summer learning camp?
You mind? So have all the parents been notified if they applied to be in and they're accepted?
Those that have already, on our first opening to sign up for summer learning camp, yes, they have been contacted. And once again, what they've done on the contacts is just once again ensure that you want to attend summer learning camp. Now that we've identified the sites, they know where their children will be. I'll add one more component there that's not on there because it just got added yesterday. Is we have identified a start time and a stop time to the days we're going to run elementary separate from middle and high. Elementary start time, I believe, will be at 7:25 to 2, is that right? 2:15. And then the middle and the high school will run, Mr. Strickland, do you remember the middle school, the time? I believe it will run 50 minutes later, so at 8, I believe it's going to be around 8 at 8:15, I believe, and then it'll go to around 3, or maybe it's 8:20 to 3:10. I believe, something like that during the day. And I will post that and get that out. I know transportation was working on just to ensure that, remember, our transportation has to get to the outskirts of our county, and it's a lot longer transport of students, and we don't want to back up too much in our schools and not be able to get back to the middle and the high schools from an elementary run. So we have to stagger it by about 50 minutes in order to do this across the board. But once again, we will establish that and settle in on that, but that is something that is in the works as we speak. And as soon as that gets verified that this is the run that we're going to make, we will post that probably in the next couple of days.
So did you say high school is the same time
As middle school,
as middle school?
yes.
Okay. And there was like a question about if there'd be any DLI, if there was enough of an interest. Did you?
And
figure
I
out?
have Ms. Garner here.
Oh.
Ms. Garner, if you want to speak to that. Ms. Garner, out of her Office of College Readiness, is responsible for DLI. She's been working on this.
Good morning. So what we have looked at doing is where we have enough students specifically in kindergarten and first grade for Spanish, we are providing a full immersion class for those students. These are the students that have not had English instruction yet. And so we felt like it would be the most appropriate for them to have a summer learning camp in Spanish. For our Mandarin students in K5 and for our Spanish students in grades 2 through 5, we've encouraged the site administrators to hire a Spanish teacher or a Mandarin teacher as an enrichment teacher, that those students that everybody in the school would have access to so that they would have some exposure. But for Spanish grades 2 through 5, those students will be attending in English because they've started English instruction at that point, and we just didn't have the personnel and the numbers really to justify classes without transporting students all over the county. So this is pretty much going to allow students to attend in the area that they are supposed to be attending. The only place where we've had to combine is Poplin and Porter Ridge. So the Poplin students, we are recommending that they go to Porter Ridge Elementary to have enough students to form a class. And in some cases, it's a combination, a kindergarten and first grade class. But in most situations, it's a separate kindergarten class and a separate first grade class.
Are we going to provide transportation, I guess, if they have to switch to Porter Ridge?
Based on the clusters that we have identified, we will provide transportation from that zone to that host site for all students.
Thank you.
I just want to say how excited I am to see some of our, all of the assistant principals having this leadership opportunity to run these sites. I recognize several of these names from, they were assistant principals for my children. And I think this is a really, really great opportunity for them to be principal for the summer. So I really love this plan.
I'm sure that they will face many challenges, but we will support and encourage and stand behind them and make sure that they are successful.
Building our own.
Yes, ma'am. That's
Growing
important.
our own.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am. All right. That's all I have for the update.
I don't know how you and your team were able to put together a summer camp.
Well, it's
So good,
still
but-
going on, but I will say that with the work of the rest of cabinet and our directors, we meet multiple times a week to go over, and we have a task tracker that things have to be done at a certain time, and so we're staying on top of it.
At every turn, we're asked to reinvent the wheel. So thank you to you and your team. We really appreciate it. Let's move now to the college readiness update.
I don't know. I'm gonna go up there and run it though. So what I've done is Miss Garner, just like we had Mr. Davis here talk about career readiness, I've asked Miss Garner to give us a college readiness update. Of course, you know that one of her jobs outside of just college readiness is a DLI, and what she just spoke about. But she's here to provide us with an update on this area and category called college readiness.
Thank you. Okay, is it not working? Okay. Well, good morning. I'm excited to be here today, and my heart is full this morning specifically because I spent my entire morning visiting high schools that were celebrating their academic signing days. And it's just so wonderful to see these students going to 2- and 4-year colleges, going into the armed forces, going straight into the workforce prepared. So I come to you with this college readiness update, and it's exciting for me because I've just seen these excited faces of these seniors that are ready and they're excited. So I'm going to start with just taking a look at some celebrations and milestones from this year. I'm really happy to be able to say that I don't feel that the pandemic for this particular school year really hindered our work. And in some ways, we ended up with greater participation from folks. So you've got the presentation, but one of the things we were able to do that was a big hit for our students, instead of our 7th and 4th grade students going on an actual physical college visit, because we knew that wasn't going to be able to happen, we were able to use some federal funding to get these really cool virtual reality headsets. And so students did some activities where they were able to do college tours using those virtual reality headsets. Our communications department did a story on it, and if you haven't had an opportunity to check it out, it was pretty cool. The kids had fun with it. We also were able to tie the 4th grade college visit into the 4th grade social studies standards. And we had that as an option for our teachers to allow students to explore colleges and universities in North Carolina, since that's the 4th grade social studies standards. We also were able to roll out this year a Canvas course so that every high school student now has access to a Canvas course where we've populated that with some resources so that we can guarantee that every student has a timeline. Our high schools have done a great job providing resources to students, but they all have slightly different offerings. And so what this allowed us to do was to make sure that we encompassed everything, that every child had access to all of the various resources. And then we linked directly to those sites that individual schools had done so that none of the work that our counselors had started was lost. And we had a lot of participation through that. Our counselors sent a lot of messages to students through Canvas that way. I'm subscribed to all the courses, and so it's fun for me to see all of the things counselors are sharing through those courses. And if parents are observers of their children, those parents also get the announcement. So it's been a great way to communicate various happenings at the school that are related to career, college readiness, all different kinds of things. And then we also put together, just like Mr. Davis shared with CTE, we worked together with Dr. Healy's team, and we provided 2 weeks of core and elective sessions during the High School Programs Expo. So we had sessions for 2 weeks straight, both for the core sessions. So we had 2 sessions for each of our core content areas, and then we had a specific AP session, an IB session. We had sessions for art and music and physical education and world languages and all various types of electives that are non-CTE related, since Mr. Davis kind of kicked it off with that. Those are all archived on the website, which is great because parents can go back and watch those. And we had really good attendance at those. So that was exciting. We were able to continue to offer parent sessions. So we started last year with a parent college readiness series, but this year we went virtual. We had over 1,000 parents registered to attend. All of those sessions were able to be recorded this year because they were done through Microsoft Teams Live. And so those are available for people to access. We continued to offer our ACT and SAT blitzes. We just moved them online, and we had great student participation. I was on one specifically for the ACT right before we did our ACT school day. We had kids staying on past the 20 minutes past when it was supposed to finish, asking questions and staying engaged, even though it was virtual. So that was great. Our College Readiness Resource Center did not completely go away. It used to meet at the library. We've moved those sessions online. And this spring, we're specifically targeting juniors who are working on those college essays to give them a little bit of help. We relaunched Champ Camp Leadership Council. We had 44 students involved with it this spring. I think, Ms. May, you were able to attend one of our sessions. It was an exciting opportunity for kids to be able to join virtually. We were able to bring in speakers from farther than we normally are that don't live in the Charlotte area, and it really allowed kids to access that a little bit easier. We maintained our AP course offerings at all of our comprehensive high schools. We've had 2 of our high schools recognized for FAFSA completion. Right now, Marvin Ridge is #1 in the state for large high schools for their percent of students who've completed the FAFSA. And CAT is #2 in the medium high school category. And we're above the state completion rate for FAFSA completion as well. And then in the middle of all this, we implemented a new college research and tracking tool. And I can't say enough about how our counselors and our students just immediately embraced this and had no problems really making the shift to SCORE. So some of the data that we got from SCORE this year is kind of just wanted to share this. I thought it was interesting. This year, these are the top 10 colleges that UCPS students applied to. So you can see UNC Charlotte is at the top of the list there. One of the things that we were not able to do this year with SCORE that is a goal for us next year is to capture some of our community college data. So if you look historically at where our students have applied, on the left, you can see this is our current class. And then on the right is historically over the last, I think it goes back 4 years where students have applied. And so you can see we have not been able to capture Central Piedmont Community College or South Piedmont Community College this year. We know that we have a lot of students applying there. So this is something we're working on. Most of the data that we have from alumni comes from the National Clearinghouse, where the colleges directly report to that clearinghouse, and then we get the data. I was excited to see Wingate on our list because we have such a strong partnership with them. And it's just an interesting list to take a look at. So I want to talk a little bit about SAT and ACT participation because this has been kind of a hot topic nationally. And as we know, all of the UNC system schools were test optional this year. So we wanted to look at how did this affect our participation. So if you take a look at this first chart, you can see that we did have a dip during the beginning, during the 1920 school year, but we rebounded this year, and more students, even than in the 18-19 school year, have either taken or registered for the SAT this year. I do want to point out that that third graph for this year, we've got official test taking data through April, but the months of May and June are just how many students have registered so far. So that third number is still could go up because there's another SAT in May and then another one in June as well. And I did not include our SAT school day numbers in 2019 because this is I wanted to make sure that my data was consistent. The ACT is similar. Now, one of the things I want to point out, the way that we get data from the SAT versus the ACT, we're able to see how many students are registered for the SAT. We are not able to see that for ACT. So what you see for this current school year is just students who have taken the ACT. So we still do have 2 more exams coming up in June and July. So we expect that number for this year to come up. And we may hit where we were pre-COVID and we may not. So it's just interesting. Students take different tests for different reasons. And I think one of the reasons we're still continuing to see that participation high is that while colleges don't require it, they do factor it in. And so kids want to try it and see if it will help them. And then it's also required, a lot of colleges require it for scholarships. So they still want to take it. And then our AP course participation. This was very exciting to me because in a year when kids knew when they were coming back this fall that they were going to be remote a large part of the time, we did not see a huge dip in our AP participation numbers. We had a little dip. I would have expected a lot more students to say, I'm not sure I want to take on that rigorous level of coursework knowing I'm going to be remote. But they didn't. They decided to keep taking the courses, and so our numbers have remained fairly consistent over the last 3 years. These are the most popular AP courses in our district. AP Psychology is one of those entry-level courses. It's fascinating for kids. They hear that the exam is not too hard. We have some fantastic teachers teaching AP Psychology that have a huge following. And so I think that's why those numbers are so high. And then you can see some of the other courses that were a little bit higher also count for some of those high school graduation requirements. So kids are doubling up on those to be able to get those high school graduation requirements in, as well as get that AP course and the potential for college credit. As a district, we offer 30 different AP courses across our high schools, and every high school offers at least 10 face-to-face. So we have quite a wide offering. We don't offer some of the different languages, Latin, Italian, Japanese. We also don't offer, and this varies actually from year to year, but this year there were a couple of different physics courses that we didn't offer. We would if students, we've offered them in the past, but if there's not enough interest, it doesn't make. And then interestingly, this year we didn't have any students opt into Studio Art 3D, which is the sculpting and pottery. In years past, we had students in drawing in 2D this year, just nobody opted for the 3D. So looking forward to next year, we are already in the midst of planning. We are hoping to increase engagement with SCORE for students who are in 9th through 11th grade. We made a strong push with our seniors this year because we knew that this was their year. They needed to be proficient in SCORE. And so we did not focus as much on 9th through 11th grade. That will be our push for next year, is to make sure that all of our high school students are proficient with SCORE and know how to use it. We're going to try to continue to track non-CCP community college enrollment in SCORE. This was a challenge for us in Navient as well, but we want to know who are our students going to community college, because we feel like that's a fantastic path for them, and we want to make sure that we promote that. We're going to continue with our virtual parent webinars. We may move some of those to in-person as things improve and get better. There are a few that specifically work better in a face-to-face environment. Some are fine online, but some of them where we have more audience engagement and interaction are better in person. We're going to continue with our SAT and ACT blitzes. I've already been working with Huntington Learning Center. We've got our dates planned for the whole year. So that's exciting. If possible, we may switch some of those to in-person, just because I think while we had good student engagement, there's just something to be said for being in the room and making sure that you're engaged the entire time. Our College Readiness Resource Center, right now we're focused on our juniors. We'll continue with that group as they become seniors and help them, just supporting our counselors in some after-school hours for them. Really, the work that our counselors do is amazing and prepares these students. But sometimes if folks need after-school or weekend appointments, we contract with our own counselors to provide that after hours for our families that need it. And we are able to pay them a little bit more with federal funding. We're going to keep going with Champ Camp Leadership Council. If you know of any great speakers, if you're interested in being a speaker, we work really hard to find engaging people with various careers. To do that, we had the military represented. We had a Monroe Lieutenant Police officer speak this year. We had someone from the medical field. We had one of our state senators from the Wilmington area speak. So we've had kind of a wide variety of people. We're very interested in continuing to get folks from various walks of life. We are hoping that the college fair will be in person next year. And we're moving that from Wingate University to CATA in October so that we have more space. That college fair has really increased in popularity, so that'll be moving. And then this last piece, we've just kind of scratched the surface with an organization called District C. They work from the North Carolina School of Science and Math, and we just had 4 of our students from Sun Valley participate in this. And it's a partnership where they work with real businesses and they coach students, normally in groups that are very diverse from kids all over the state. And they coach them through a problem-solving process. And they literally pitch ideas to these businesses to help them solve problems that the businesses bring. So our 4 Sun Valley students that participated were nominated by their school, did a fantastic job last week. I heard them pitch their ideas to the businesses. We want to bring that opportunity to more students in Union County. We've gotten Pat Kale connected with them to try to get some local businesses. So she was their guest speaker last week. It's a great budding partnership there with District C. And that is my update. I will entertain any questions at this time.
I just have a couple. The parent webinars, like what grade is that, like for students, is that geared towards?
That's a great question. So it really depends on the webinar.
Okay.
We offered almost one a month. Some of those were really for parents starting as young as 6th grade. Some were specifically targeting sophomores, some were juniors, some were seniors. So it kind of ran the gamut, but we did try to have some that were inclusive, kind of starting with some of those middle school students and then moving up.
They're recorded. Do they ever do any that have like a Spanish translation?
So one of the things that's a great feature of our Microsoft Teams Live event, and we set this up when we start the webinar, is it'll allow you to translate the captions, the closed captioning, into up to 6 languages. So we always choose Spanish. And at the beginning, we didn't do this at the very beginning of the year. As we learned more, we started to have a couple of slides at the beginning where we shared how you can then change your captions. And I have to be honest, I speak Spanish, and the live translation that's the closed captioning is actually pretty good. Okay. So that is available. And then we did do a webinar this year in Spanish, not for our Parent College Readiness series, but for our rising middle school students, rising kindergarten who were interested in immersion. We did one in English and we also did one in Spanish.
Okay. Like what are they seeing as far as SAT and ACT for, like what are colleges saying for the next, like for seniors applying next year?
It's going to continue to be test optional. I don't know if this has been finalized. We have heard, though, that the UNC system is going to keep that test optional for 3 years. I think they're doing an internal research project to look and see what is the success rate of students without those scores coming in as an indicator of acceptance. And so I think they're doing a little internal research. So we fully expect those to continue to be test optional.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Go ahead, John.
I'm sorry. Tell me your name again. I'm sorry.
Jessica Garner.
Miss Garner. Okay.
Yes.
The ACT program, when do students begin to receive information about the dates? And secondly, are there classes or workshops that they can take to prepare them for the SAT and ACT?
Great question. So all of our juniors take the ACT in February of their junior year at school. That's it's part of state accountability. They all take the pre-ACT in 10th grade. So they start to get information about it definitely in 10th grade, but our schools start to publicize this from right when they come in as freshmen. We also put the national test dates on our website in case anybody's interested. All of our counselors have that. It's in our Canvas course that all of our students in high school have access to. And as far as classes, there is a virtual class offered, I think, through, UC Virtual has one that is an SAT or ACT prep course. But we also offer, the blitzes kind of give just, strategies, test taking tips. Should you guess? What's the best method for guessing? Some of those pieces. Last summer, we offered ACT and SAT week-long camps for students. And this year, we didn't want to compete with the summer learning camps. So we've moved those, and we're going to do those virtually after school next fall and next spring. And we've timed them up with when those national and when the ACT school day is, so that if kids want in on those, they can get them. They will be offered at no cost to our students. Each high school, to keep the camp at a reasonable size, each high school will have 10 slots per camp, and we're going to do a total of 4 camps next year, 2 ACT, 2 SAT. And we're going to work with our counselors to register kids to make sure that the kids who do it are truly invested in giving the time after school and have that time to give.
Okay. And my last question, with the college fair, what is our relationship with the representation of HBCUs at our college fairs?
So the college fair is actually organized completely by an organization called CACRAO, which stands for I always have to write it down because I can't ever remember what the acronym means. The Carolinas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers. So it's actually organized by the colleges themselves. We just work together to set up the week to make sure they have what they need. We've done some registration so that we know how many of our students are joining, but this will be the Union County one. So it's not just Union County Public Schools. It'll be open to Union Academy, any of the other private schools, homeschool students, they all come on that day. And so, I believe that they open this up to any schools that are interested. And we've certainly had some HBCUs that have attended in the past.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You mentioned earlier that a lot of the things you offered this year were archived on our website. Where specifically would a parent or a student go on our website? What department? Where is this archived?
Great question. So if you go to, if you click on departments on the main Union County website, if you go to College Readiness, we have a page that's called Parent College Readiness Series. And so what we've done is we've created a table that basically has the date, the time, the description and the audience of who we're targeting, the link to register. And then once we're done, we put the recording and the presentation up on there.
Nice.
So that'll be there. And then next year we'll archive that page. And so we'll probably put a link at the top to the recordings, and then we'll put our new registration links up when we get to the 21-22 school year.
Very nice. And I follow that department on Twitter. So I see a lot of the information. Is that also shared on Facebook? Because I know a lot of parents follow UCPS on Facebook, not Twitter.
Sometimes our communications department will pick
Okay.
up things and share it. Yes. They've been very good partners with sharing some of our events. I'm in constant communication with them about, they'll say, okay, what do you have coming up? What do we need to promote on Facebook? Things like that. So they are a big help to getting that word out.
Nice. Do we still have Albert on all of our Chromebooks?
We do. And it was funny you mentioned that because I did not mention that with the ACT, SAT. It is a wonderful tool. Our students have access to that. In fact, I'm meeting with them tomorrow to talk about how we can strategically use that. And we do some work with our schools leading up to that ACT school day specifically, where we open up some courses. Students can take a practice ACT. And we're going to actually incorporate that into our ACT, SAT after school camps that we're doing this fall and spring by allowing the students to do a pre-test and a post-test on Albert and have accompanying assignments while they're getting the instruction from Huntington Learning, who will provide us with that service in the after school camps.
I'm really happy to hear that because I had a senior last year and he was considering the Naval Academy in West Point, and he was trying to get his scores up, and then he was taking AP classes. And I think the beauty of Albert, from what I remember from Dr. Tyson and Dr. Bauer's presentation, was that Albert, having that on every Chromebook for our students, and then allowing our students to keep their Chromebook last summer to continue practicing and working if they so choose. Albert was kind of a one-stop shop. You could work on your SAT, you could work on your AP classes, you could work on ACT. all in, one program. And I'm hoping a lot of our AP teachers are using that as well in the classroom to prepare our students for their AP exams. So I'm really pleased to hear that we still have Albert. And then, of course, we always have Khan Academy that students can link up. I know that's something you've really advocated for and helped students practice at home with a personalized, Khan Academy instruction. I had a comment that I just wanted to plant the seed as far as community colleges. If you're able to start tracking, our students that are choosing to go to community colleges, I know that a lot of our students participate at SPCC, which has been a wonderful partner for Union County Public Schools with our dual enrollment. But some of our students also, for different programming, may choose Central Piedmont Community College. Interestingly enough, the Merrill children have also utilized Stanley Community College. So I just want to make sure that we track all of the community colleges. And I also want to mention that Stanley Community College has a wonderful winter break program where you can actually take and earn college courses over your winter break. So, whether you're a high school student or students, coming home, you can knock out a lot of required electives for your associate's degree or your bachelor's degree while you're at home for winter break. And to my knowledge, Stanley is the only one I've been able to locate that offers that. And it's a wonderful opportunity to get that psychology, sociology, whatever. Now, in that short window, it's an extremely condensed, intensive program. So I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. But, if you have a motivated student that really wants to, do something productive over their break, I really encourage everyone to take a look at Stanley, because from what I saw through my children, it was a great opportunity. So I would really like to make sure that we're tracking the community college, like you said earlier. Those were all of my questions. Anything else? Okay, thank you so much. Okay. And then that brings us to Union County Public Schools AIG Plan Addendum, and I think we get to hear from Dr. Hodgson. And I don't think I've seen you in over a year, so wonderful to see you.
Good morning. So we're here today. As you guys know, we have a 3-year AIG plan, and that's a state requirement. And we're starting with the 21-22 school year. We'll be on the 3rd year of our 3-year plan. So while we're on the 3rd year of the plan, we will also be beginning to rewrite the plan. It's hard to believe that it's been 3 years almost since 3 years when we started writing the new plan. Anytime that we make a change to that plan, because it's board approved, and then state board, I don't think it's approved at the state board, but it's looked at and approved. We have to do an addendum. And after doing lots of research on our current plan and our scores, we've decided that we need to make some tweaks to that plan. So that's why I'm here today. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to share what our ideas are. The AIG department is requesting that it be put into place starting June 1st, and these are what we would like to see. We want to extend the use of aptitude scores from 1 year to 2 year window. We want to expand aptitude and achievement cut scores for pathways 2 and 3. Currently, if you look at our pathway scores, it's 93 percentile for pathway 2, and it's 80. It is 89% for pathway 3. So we want to move that back 3 percentage points to 90 and 86. So those are a couple. And the reason for these changes are due to the effects of the global pandemic and learning loss, and also to address the challenges associated with remote learning. I want to specifically talk about our pathway 3, which is the pathway for our underrepresented populations in our Title I schools. We are not seeing the number of students identified for AIG in that pathway as we would like. And then we know those students are there. And so we're really focusing our attention on that pathway with this addendum. Also, we want to really focus attention on the social emotional well-being of students, enrichment and extension options for gifted and advanced students. We want to focus on career and college planning for gifted and advanced students in our secondary schools. You ask a 9th grader, I asked my son when he was in 11th grade, tell me about your AIG. He's like, Mom, AIG ended at 8th grade. They don't realize that it doesn't end, that it's still an option in high school. We want to also focus on improvement for talent development, to begin to look at those students, especially at our Title I schools and our underrepresented populations, to try to find those students through talent development. And then also provide professional development opportunities for our teachers. Teaching a gifted student may look different than teaching a student and other students. And so we want to offer that professional development. We want to extend the opportunities of our AIG Academy that we have here in Union County to grow our own. The Academy is, the curriculum is exactly as the curriculum at some of the universities. It's free to our teachers. It's a year long, once a month. This year, of course, it was virtual, but within the coming year, we're going to do a hybrid. So somebody can decide if they want to do it virtually or they want to be face-to-face. At the end of that year, they will be what's called micro-credentialed. They will be able to teach AIG in Union County public schools. They can take the state assessment and become fully certified, but we just ask that they stay with us for 3 years after we do the training. So with all that being said, we're just asking for the addendum to be approved so that we can change those cut scores back 3 percentage points. That's the biggie. So, any questions? I know that was a lot of information quickly.
On the pathway 3, is it a combination of all the indicators that you feel like they're not meeting to qualify, or is it certain indicators?
It's certain indicators because we have there. Each student has to have 3 data points, and so it's a combination of, not in all of them.
But I mean, it's not that you're not seeing enough hit the aptitude indicator, or it's more the performance indicator?
It's the performance indicator.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the high school AIG opportunities?
We, on our website, on our AIG website, we have a whole matrix that outlines if an AIG student wants to do like career and college promise, if they want to do AP, if they want to do a combination of all of them. We have it all laid out there. It's pretty extensive, the offerings.
So it's more just showing suggested opportunities. 'Cause
Right.
my daughter graduated
Right.
already, but she was in
Right.
AIG, and I'm thinking, I don't remember her doing anything in high school.
Well,
But she
so
did. It's just not.
what we're
okay.
seeing sometimes is our AIG students opt not to take the AP courses.
Oh,
They opt not to do the CCP courses. They opt just to take the honors courses, and
right.
and so what we made that matrix for was for parents to talk with students and say, you have this capability. Go with this more challenging route. Don't just go the easy, route. And that's what we're seeing that often. So that matrix was designed as much for parents as it was for
Okay.
students. Yes.
It's a good search and find for many schools to go through the registration process and identify the students that are AIG math or are AIG reading, and to ensure that, to see if they have signed up for that rigorous coursework. And, it's always nice when you can kind of bring them in and also contact the parent as well, and have a discussion about, you have the potential to take these. And if you haven't signed up, we would really like you to push yourself, and we know that you will be successful, and we'll stand here behind you and support you on that. But, and that helps also increase our numbers in the AP courses and they make, and so it's kind of a win all around.
Does every school do this? I know we would get an email from the school saying your child should suggestively take, and then they'd list all the AP classes. Does every school do that? Like, to the parent?
I can't verify how they do that, but that is a practice that all of our schools do, is to go through and look to see who has signed up for what, and especially if they are had A's in the previous section, 10th grade, let's say a civics class, and you need to take honors or an AP US history the next, because obviously they're good at that and they're interested in it, or if they've had the test scores or are placed in AIG. Yes.
I have a question. I know you made mention about the Title I schools trying to identify those students to participate and take advantage of those classes. What are some ideas that you all have come up with to try to identify those students, because they are there, as you mentioned?
Right. So we've had the AIG teachers at those schools identify potential students and give them enrichment opportunities that maybe they would not have had otherwise. So we have a lower number of AIG identified students. So instead of the class being just the 4 AIG students, it may be the 4 identified students and 15 students that have shown potential in other ways. Like their teacher said, they're very gifted, but they don't perform well on the assessment. And part of the reason they're not performing well on the assessment is because sometimes those assessments ask for things, for the student to know things that they may not have experienced. And so we have to give them an opportunity to have those experiences in the classroom. If it talks about maybe, the question may say something like, a student visited the Museum of Natural History. Well, that child's never been to a museum of natural history. So what is that? So they don't, even before they get the question, they're already going, I don't know. So we give them that question in the classroom and say, this is a museum of natural history and this is what's there, and and give them activities. And then when they take the next assessment, they're better prepared. Does that make sense?
Like breaking down the barriers
Absolutely.
of intimidation, because as you mentioned, if you've never been, it can cause you to be not interested.
Right. Or just not
Yeah.
know.
Not
You
know,
just
absolutely.
don't know. And so you've already missed the question before you even started
Right.
because you didn't know the question,
Okay.
Are we required to take that test for the AIG state standards, or can we just get rid of that test?
No, we have to have 3
Okay.
data points. So that's pathway 3. Those kids can be assessed for AIG with their principal and their principal signature and a team of folks. So that's why we put that pathway 3, but they still have to do the assessment. So the talent development is getting them in that class and helping them develop their talent so that they'll be ready to do the assessment when we offer it.
I do have to say that since you have been with Union County Public Schools, I believe that we are doing a much better job in bringing in more students and offering more students that may not necessarily test well, because it has been my personal experience that I think AIG was too rigid, and not everyone tests well. And I personally do not believe that testing well is an indicator of being an advanced student. And I think it is a shame for any gifted or advanced student to have to wait till ninth grade to show that they can do it. And so I just want to thank you for not being so rigid and being more inclusive to our students that really need and deserve this opportunity to be in AIG. So thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to point out that you did say that this extension was just for next year. Okay,
But it is
Mhm.
going to be our recommendation that this be our plan.
in your rewrite.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
gotcha.
Uh,
And this is an action item that you
Yes,
would
ma'am.
like for us to take to the full board. So
Please.
if there are any other questions, please ask, or I am ready to accept a motion.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. 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 And thank you so much. We'll take this to our June meeting for the full board. That brings us to 2021-22 digital resource renewals.
In your packets, you have several digital resources that are up for renewal, including Dreambox, Discovery Ed, and Myon. We have currently had contracts with these companies, and we do use these resources. So these are renewals, and as expected, these renewals are about 1-2% higher on a cost per student average than the previous contract. Some of them were 1 year, some of them were 3 years in the past, and we're seeing that across the board. And but obviously, these are widely used at across Union County Public Schools. These aren't just for single sites. Does anybody have any questions on any of these?
I do not, and I'm willing to accept a motion to send to the full board at the June meeting. Okay, all those in favor say aye. 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 Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next action item is the K12 Virtual Academy for the next school year, 2021-22. Dr. Breedlove.
On behalf of Dr. Houlihan, I want to advocate that Union County Public Schools does not offer a completely virtual option next year, similar to what we've done this year due to the pandemic, for reasons such as it currently stands, there is no state mandate that we must offer a virtual option. As you know, and we've worked through in the past, there's staffing concerns associated with being able to do this, right? And in order to do what we've been able to do this year, it requires a tremendous effort on the part of teachers and schools, master schedules, reworking to pull teachers out of the face-to-face environment, place them into the virtual environment. And you're aware that school systems, were held harmless this past year on their staffing allotments by the state. We don't foresee being held harmless in the coming year. And to do what our teachers were able to do, yes, while many of our teachers were either a face-to-face or a virtual, we couldn't do that across the board. And our EC teachers, our AIG teachers, they had to do what's called a hybrid model. And then when you get into your middle and the high school, when you have specific courses that are taught by only one teacher, those teachers had to do hybrid models, and it was a lot of strain. And I can't speak highly enough about our teaching staff and what they were able to do. And then of course, working with our students and, working on the success of them in that virtual environment as well. Some students were successful, other students were not successful. And if you open it to one, you got to open it to all, right? And so what we are seeing is just this need to go back to the face-to-face environment and making sure that every day we have touch points with students. So because I can't overestimate the value of the teacher and the student in a face-to-face environment. So for those reasons, we would recommend to the board that we not move forward with a virtual K12 virtual school. We will go back to what we would like to go back to is just operating our Union County Virtual, which are standalone courses that students could take in not an all-day virtual environment.
Does anyone have any questions? I just want to say publicly that I absolutely support this recommendation from you and Dr. Houlihan, especially after seeing our fall scores. And like you said, a small percentage of our students, especially advanced students that are self-driven, might be able to teach themselves well on a computer at home, and they may have the parental support to stay on top of all of their assignments. But for most children, that is not possible. And I think our fall scores reflected that. And I just want to say that, Union County Public Schools is historically a very high performing school district in the state. And I think it is much to the credit of our, phenomenal teachers in the classroom. And I think this recommendation, I think we need to absolutely do everything we can to get back to what we do so well. So I am more than happy to accept a recommendation to send this to the full board at the June meeting. Okay, all those in favor say aye. 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 Okay, closing items for today to be taken to the full board will be the AIG Addendum, the digital resource renewals, and the recommendation to not offer a K12 Virtual Academy as we had this year during COVID-19. I do want to remind parents that, with this recommendation, pre-COVID, parents, especially high school students or primarily high school students, will always have the opportunity for Union County Public Schools virtual courses that are on our website. We'll just, defer back to UCPS virtual and NC virtual. So even though we're not going to continue the COVID-19 plan, and it's not state recommended or required, parents always have those two options if this has been good for you and your students. So we will take those three recommendations to the full board in June. Our next meeting will be June 17th at 11 a.m. if necessary here at the PDC. And so that I will take a motion to adjourn. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone.